But now we come to our Christmas good value spot. With the general feeling of tightening of belts in the air, we decided to find out how to make our own drink cheaply, and so Tony's taking a festive look at beginners' winemaking kits.
For about 80 pence, you can buy for yourself a drinkable bottle of red wine. But for about the same sort of price, you can make for yourself, I'm told, up to 6 bottles of red, white or rosé without treading the grapes yourselves. Gwynneth Davies of the Consumers Association. Beginners' winemaking kits, how much do they cost?
Well, we've just tested about 13, handyman which this is, and we found they range between about 70 pence and £3 for a kit. But for the 70 pence end of the market, you will generally only get the ingredients. For the £3, you'll also get some equipment.
Right, I know nothing at all about making my own wine, I hasten to say. How is it done?
Well, there are 2 things that you must remember before we go any further. That first and foremost, the kits do vary quite a lot. So although we're going to be showing you what happens on one, you must read your instructions very carefully.
Right.
The other thing to remember is that before you start, everything must be scrupulously clean. That's the
important.
essence of it, yes. And we've got the Boots wine kit here, which comes with just about everything. This was one of our good value for money. And to make things clean, you've got citric acid and sodium metabisulfite, and mix these 2 together and it gives you sulfur dioxide. And you use this to sterilise your demijohn or gallon jar in which you start the thing off.
Right, OK.
So you then take your ready trodden grapes. This comes in a tin, that's right. Grape concentrate. And you mix this with water, put about 6 pints of water into this jar. Then you take some of the water from there, or some of the must, as it's now called.
Right.
And you add to that the yeast.
Yes.
Now, it's the yeast that starts activating this, so that it starts fermenting, and that's where the alcohol starts being produced.
Right, OK. And then you leave it, do you?
Well, no, it's not quite as easy as that. Having put your yeast in, you have to put a cork into the top of this with this airlock thing in it.
Right.
Okay? Now, this is very important because it allows the gases given off during fermentation to escape, but it stops the dreaded vinegar fly getting in.
What is the vinegar fly?
Well, if it gets into this bottle while it's fermenting, you'll end up with about 6 bottles of very nice wine vinegar.
Which is great for salad, but not much use for anything else.
Not much use for anything
And then
else.
you leave it?
Well, yes, you do leave it for about 10 days on this particular kit. And then you take this out, you add sugar, and then you put the airlock back in and you leave it again for about 5 days, repeat the process, and then you have to leave it to bubble. Now, perhaps if I could show you, there's one over here bubbling.
Yes.
That is in its fermentation stage, and this will carry on for minimum of 6 weeks, but we found in our tests that it could go up to 16, in fact, depending on the temperature within which it's kept.
I see that the bubbles over there are passing through some sort of liquid, though. What's the liquid?
Yes, they are. This, again, is the sterilisation stuff that we've got in here. Do you remember we cleaned everything out to start with? And you put some of that in there so that it fills up this bit at the bottom.
Just see,
Yes.
Oops. Yes, just right.
Yep.
And then you leave it?
And then you leave it, that's right.
Then what happens?
Well, after this sort of 16 weeks at a maximum is over, you'll find that the bubbling has stopped. And that means that the wine should be ready for racking.
What is racking?
Racking means getting rid of the sediment, or getting rid of the clear wine, rather, and leaving the sediment that you get at the bottom of the jar. If you come over here, I'll show you how you do it. Again, on this kit that we're talking about, you do actually get a siphoning tube, and you can get this tap, which goes on the end. And what you do is you literally siphon off the wine from the top, leaving the sediment at the bottom.
Well, in fact, that wine that's coming off looks pretty clear, but supposing it still had sediment in it?
Well, if it still had sediment floating actually in the liquid, then what you do is, having taken a small test like that and seen that there is still some, you'd rack it from this jar into another jar and lay that down perhaps for a couple of months to allow the sediment to drop to the bottom again, and then rack it off into a bottle.
And then you can drink it?
No, not yet, Tony, sorry. When you've racked it off into your bottle, then you have to put a cork in the top and lay it down really for a minimum of about 3 months. And if you can leave it longer, it does tend to get better in most cases.
It's a long business, this, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
What is the wine like, and what are the best value buys in the kits?
Well, we found that there were 3 wines that our panel thought were consistently drinkable. That was the Boots kit that we've just been talking about. That one comes at about £2.47, and that includes practically all the equipment, the bottles included as well. Then there's the Loftus kit, which is in the centre here. That one's £2.20, but that one doesn't have the bottles, so you'd have to buy those when you got to the
Right.
racking stage. And the third one was the Sparklets kit, which was about £1.09, but as you can see, this one only has the ingredients, it doesn't have the equipment with it, so you'd have to buy that separately.
Right, now, after all this time, let's go and try it out with one of your test samples, shall we?
Okay. This has been laid down for, I think, about a year, so it's had plenty of time to mature.
Put a little drop in.
Yes.
That's not bad at all, is it? Cheers.
Cheers.